Hey guys, welcome back to another English episode of the podcast. If you're a first-time listener of Love Being Alone, welcome. I'm happy to have you. If you're a long-time listener, welcome back and thanks for continued support. How was the intro? It was a bit more welcoming than usual, huh? Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in and I hope you're doing amazing. As you guys know, I've been doing my podcast for over a year now and my show, Love Being Alone, is basically where I talk about whatever is on my mind. I usually pick some various thoughts that have been bouncing around my head, either recently or for a long time, and put them all together and I turn them into an episode. So Love Being Alone for me started as a low pressure place where I could just talk about whatever I wanted, casually. The whole thing is very intuitive, like anything can be a podcast topic. And this amount of freedom puts me in a very comfortable place where I feel like I might be able to maintain this longer than expected. I feel pretty confident that there's no way I will quit due to a lack of ideas. You know what I mean? Like my knee-jerk thoughts when I just started my podcast was like, I'm not gonna quit just because I run out of things to talk about. At least. And the reason I feel this way is because I've actually experienced before where I quit YouTube for various reasons, including a lack of content ideas. Now, let's put a pin in my podcast for a second and backtrack to my YouTube history, my all-time YouTube history. I'm pretty sure many of you guys don't know about this, but I launched my first YouTube channel during the pandemic in 2020, I believe. And it was mostly vlogs. I mainly did some vlogs. It started off pretty well. I luckily got brand deals a few months into it and I learned a lot along the way, especially when it came to editing, which was the most time-consuming part of the YouTube process. You know, editing could take more than 30 hours, especially someone who 9 to 5. It literally takes more than 48 hours. I'm not gonna lie. It's beyond time-consuming. But I pushed through it. I just pushed through it because I love doing it. You know, I've actually had this thing with tunnel vision. Like if I get hooked on something that resonates with me, I tend to become overly ambitious and overly invested. So at the time, YouTube was technically my first passion / my first creative outlet. And I began with high hopes, hoping that one day I can turn it into my career. However, it didn't last long, unfortunately. It only lasted about a year. The reason it didn't last so long, the reason why I quickly fell out of love, is because, first, I didn't like the idea of filming myself religiously. The narrative around being a YouTuber is that you have to upload at least once a week, right? Or else you become relevant or never even be blow up. That is, for me, unrealistic. Additionally, I consider myself a very private person. Now, this might sound kind of contradictory since I have a weekly podcast and also use Instagram, but these platforms are incomparable. You know what I mean? I find them much more lighthearted compared to YouTube. On Instagram, I mostly go when I have something to post. And I don't even post frequently unless I'm on a trip or something. Also, when it comes to my podcast, there's a structure. My podcast falls into the self-help category, which means there are boundaries about the subject matter. It's not something where I just shoot the breeze and share TMI. I always write an outline ahead of time so I can be cohesive and thoughtful about what I say. Whereas being a YouTuber, there's a huge pressure to constantly be on camera. So you're sort of in this hamster wheel where you have to upload every week, like upload, film after. That can be very overwhelming. Not to mention, as a 9 to 5, I don't have an exciting daily life. My day starts at my workplace and ends at home. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. My life it's just as boring as the boy next door. So the only time I can make a YouTube video is on the weekend. But some weeks, I just want to be silent and quiet and cozy in my bed. Some weeks, I just want to do nothing. And I felt like it was more common than it should be. That I was forcing myself to be on camera and forcing myself to go out and do stuff for the sake of my video. Because, obviously, I had to grow my channel. If I'm being honest, if I'm being brutally honest, there are many times when I was reluctant to film myself and do extravagant things, to try not to bore my audience. I ended up splurging on stuff and filming shopping hauls or over purchasing clothes and filming lookbooks, whatever. But the majority of the things I've done for the sake of YouTube were not sustainable at all. So I ended up hitting a wall quicker than anticipated. It felt like everything was getting out of my hand. Also, when it comes to safety concerns, the idea of showing your day-to-day life, like most vloggers do, is actually very anxiety-inducing. If you're a daily vlogger, you post your day-to-day life, whether you're going to the grocery store, hanging out with friends, or just working in your neighborhood, whatever, your privacy is on the line. You know what I mean? I think being on the internet itself is something that you have to live it in fear. I mean, some people find it no big deal. They'd be like, I'll do anything for views. As long as I can stay relevant, I'm willing to give up my privacy. Like, that might work for someone, but it doesn't work for me. And it doesn't work for everyone. And on top of that, I didn't feel myself. I was like, well, this is not me. This is totally against my nature, you know? So that's part of the reason I stopped filming vlogs. I came to the conclusion that I want to keep it something relatively low maintenance and something that I can maintain with less pressure. That's when I came with the idea of a podcast. The way that I get to communicate with people who want to listen to me talk is through my podcast, which for me is a much more comfortable environment. Like me sitting here and talking into the microphone doesn't frighten me necessarily because it's not a security risk, right? I can record my podcast at any given moment, any time of the day, no matter what I look like. I'm in the comfort of my couch or my bed and no one can see me. I'm just talking. So the podcasting in general, I see this as a sustainable entertainment. I can see myself that I'm able to do this in the long run, unless I'm lost my interest whatsoever. So all of this to say, I'm not the only YouTuber who has started creating weekly videos and decided to do a podcast or create all together, you know? There were times when I was beating myself up and felt guilty for giving up something, but I'm not the only one who's done that, right? There are probably gazillions of YouTubers who have had to do that, and I think what really comes down to is that you don't need to feel guilt about something you fail at. Failure is okay as long as you learn something along the way. So to wrap up my YouTube story, I usually try to stay away from the definite answers for the most part, but I don't think I'm ever going back to daily vlogging. However, I'm open to making a vlog occasionally when I'm on a trip or have special moments to document. I probably do that, but for now, I don't see myself returning to weekly vlogging. Uploading a podcast episode weekly, like I'm doing right now, is my best limit. And I also find that doing things that I can hold myself accountable for is the best policy. Now, let's turn to my podcast, because I also have some personal dilemmas that I'm chewing on regarding it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm doing great. I'm doing really great. I love doing my podcast. I love enjoying the process of my podcast. But some dilemmas I've been dealing with is something that I assume anyone pursuing a creative career has gone through it at least once. So I think I'm going to run that down with you. The sheer love being on a podcast is a big chunk of my workload outside my main job now. This is my primary creative outlet, and I'm considering my true passion / hobby, I would say. The reason I consider it hobby is because, like I mentioned earlier, like thousands of times, I have a main job. I've been in a 9-to-5 pretty much my whole life, which has never been a voluntary option for me, if I'm being honest. I'm doing this to just keep my life afloat. That's it. Now, a career or a job, that's something which you don't necessarily choose to do it in your free time, right? You're doing it because it helps you make a means of income. A career is a means to live your life, or we could say just pay your bills. That's pretty much it. And another reason for that is I have never profit from my creative outlets. I never received the income from it. Obviously, I would love to be able to profit from it at some point because I'm putting my work into it and time into it, and it'd be nice to have it be a part of my income, right? Obviously. But turning your passion into a main job, or even just monetizing your passion for the matter, is not as easy as it sounds. It's actually extremely tough. It's not an overnight thing, right? I bet many creators can relate to it. I mean, who doesn't want to pursue their passion and profit from it? Who doesn't? I'm no exception. Like, ever since I started, in the back of my mind, I've always thought, maybe one day I will make this my job because, that is my ultimate goal. However, it is impossible for everyone in this world to have a job that's rooted in their passion. It can take a lot of time to get to a point where a creative endeavor is your main source of income because you're building something from the ground up, right? And you can make any promises along the way. Let's say you're a content creator and you create a video. You don't know if your viewers are gonna love it. If you're a musician and you put your music out into the world, you don't know if your listeners are gonna love it. When you're writing a book, which I've also been working on it right now, when you're writing a book, you don't know if your people are gonna enjoy reading it. Like, everything is unpredictable. And that sense of unpredictability often puts you in a state of uncertainty. It can give them some sort of anxiety. And it's also very, 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 very tough financially. When your passion has a means of income, depends on whether or not people are going to like you on the internet, you lose the stability of having a regular income because you're on your own boss. You're self-employed. So it's not like you get a paycheck every month, right? You need to kind of let go of the safety of having a regular income. And that's, I think, arguably the hardest pill to swallow for many people. So now, as I analyze the concept of turning passion into a career, I started to wonder, knowing that everything is not promising, everything is not predictable, do I necessarily need to turn my passion into a job? If I do, am I willing to take all the risks? Are you psychologically, physically ready to do that? Is it actually worth my time and effort, even if I'm not able to profit from it? In the beginning, I started my podcast because I enjoy doing it. I fully choose to spend my time on it, working towards it, learning it, and getting better at it. It's something that I really did choose to pursue it, right? So profiting from it was not my number one priority. I'm more focused on growing my channel to reach a larger audience so I can connect with more people. And then if I do get lucky, I might have opportunities for sponsorship or brand deals that I can eventually profit from, but that is something to consider later on, right? As much as I'm aware of this aspect, I like to be patient and just immerse myself in the process first and foremost, while seeing how other people thrive in their creative careers and share their successful stories online, such as how I made big on YouTube or how to turn my passion into a successful business. Like, all these extreme next level titles often caught my eyes, and I couldn't help but click them because they all sound so intriguing, and next thing I know, I feel regret at watching them. And that affects me mentally, and even compare myself like, wait, am I on the right track? Am I doing it right? If so, why haven't I achieved the level of success? What am I missing here? Like, I'm starting to question everything. I started to doubting my ability to pursuing my creative career. You get what I'm saying? Another good example of a scenario that makes you question what you're doing due to external force is, let's say you want to be a writer. You don't have any certain degrees related to writing, and you never formally educate yourself in this industry, but writing is your true passion, and becoming a writer has always been your long-time goal, and you want to make it happen, and you want to pursuing it. But let's say your friends and family try to talk you out of it and want you to have a higher paying job. because they argue that being a writer is not financially stable until you become a, bestseller or whatever. And there's plenty of room for fuck-ups. And then you start to feel the pressure to make decisions based on other people's expectations, as if there are guaranteed steps to success in life. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you know deep down yourself that, like, you need to prioritize yourself, you need to make decisions for yourself and for your soul, for your own well-being, you find yourself torn between following a path of guaranteed success and following your intuition to pursue your true passion. You start to all of a sudden confused. We're constantly being faced with the choice between guaranteed success and more happiness in life. Obviously, it'd be nice to just mind our own business and go our own way, no matter what other people say about us or judge about us. But we, as humans, are prone to external forces. It's normal. I think it's completely normal, but most importantly, you have to make decisions that lead you to a happier, more fulfilling life, where you feel connected to and inspired by what you're doing. And so, as I'm sorting through this dilemma, I realized that having a dream and a passion and having a career don't always go hand in hand. And on top of that, don't feel like you fail if you can't find a way to make money from your passion. In theory, being self-employed, being an influencer, being an entrepreneur of some sort, all sounds great and like a dream come true, right? And a lot of people look up to that. I've seen so many people romanticizing being self-employed and kind of diminishing the fact that being an employee is just a stepping stone to eventually becoming a self-employed. I mean, understandably so. There's times where I looked at it like that as well. In fact, a lot of people don't really like to feel like below somebody, right? But I don't think being self-employed is something that needs to be seen as the peak of success. And I don't think being unemployed needs to be seen as a bad thing. I think that you can live a very happy life working for somebody else and then disconnecting after work and using all your free time to live a happy life that allows you to pursue your passions in a low-stakes way, like I'm doing right now. So I think the biggest takeaway here is that it's all about mindset. It's all about mindset, how you look at it. Think of it like this. Think of it as like, I get to enjoy my passion for what it is, and I don't have to worry about making money from it. I get to enjoy it for me. I can just enjoy it for what it is, and it's going to remain secret for me. And that's not a bad thing at all. That's actually a really, really beautiful thing. If I were to start profiting off of it, you lose the magic. You completely lose the magic. It's no longer my passion anymore. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for supporting the podcast and coming back every week and listening and hang out with me. I'm just immensely grateful that I found out podcasts and got into this space. This is truly my favorite way to connect with you, and I love talking to people, and I love breaking down topics and discussing them. That's one of my favorite things to do in life. So the fact that I'm able to do this on this podcast and you guys want to listen is the most awesome thing. So I couldn't be more appreciating you guys, and I'm just really excited to lean into the podcast for another year and see how far I can take it. Why not? Let's see. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. New episodes every Thursday of Love Being Alone. New English episodes every month of Love Being Alone with Lynn. Follow me on Instagram at YEXLINX. Follow Love Being Alone Instagram at Love Being Alone by Lynn. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day. And alright, talk soon. Bye.